Well, good afternoon. Thank you all for coming out in the threatening weather today. I think for most of us, we got a little break in the rain just as we walked over, but if you were out in the sprinkles, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to all who are tuned in online or by video feed. Have some things I'd like to talk about today. First of all, some introductions of new leaders who will be aboard soon. Also, an opportunity to recognize some outstanding educators. We have a number of those here at UTMB, but some with special recognition recently. To talk a little bit more about what's happening with Angleton Danbury and to show you a picture of an incredible group of leaders from that organization and talk a little bit about their story. And then I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about plans and planning and where we are and how we're looking at the future, how we're organizing our plans to make them easier to understand and hopefully provide a better connection to the work that everybody is doing, each individual is doing at UTMB, tying that into this concept of My Road Ahead, which we've discussed in the past, and then update you relative to some efforts to enhance communications across UTMB to keep everybody better informed about great things that are happening here, important things that are happening here, things that employees want to know about. So let me just charge into the agenda. So these are pictures of three new leaders who will be coming aboard in the next several months. Dr. Doug Tyler is our incoming chair of surgery. Doug's coming to us from Duke, where he currently is the chief of surgical oncology. He graduated from Dartmouth School of Medicine with high honors, I think, in 1985. Did a surgical residency at Duke, did a surgical oncology fellowship at MD Anderson, then returned back to Duke to take on a faculty position and has had increasing responsibility there since that time. He runs one of the largest clinical trials groups focused on melanoma, to a lesser extent on GI cancers in the country. So we're very excited he's coming aboard. Now, see Dr. Townsend back there, he's not going anywhere. At least that's what he's promised me, shaking his head. And not only has he been performing all of his duties as current chair of surgery, but he has been doing an amazing job for us, talking to alumni, friends of the university, helping us with our campaign efforts. So Dr. Townsend, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate all that you do and all that you've done and all that you will continue to do. Cheryl Sadro, absolutely, thank you. Cheryl Sadro is our new Executive Vice President, Chief Business and Finance Officer. She'll begin on October 13th, so a few Mondays in advance of this coming Monday. She comes to us from a corporate finance oversight position with Catholic Health Initiatives. As you all will remember, CHI is the group that purchased the St. Luke's Hospital and has created the affiliation with Baylor. They're a national organization. She's been involved with not only oversight of finance, but institutional support functions like facilities, like information technology, like human resources. She'll have a similar role here. She brings great experience. I know a number of you have had the opportunity to meet her, and you all, almost to a person, have commented to me about her marvelous people skills, about her broad range of experiences. And I think we're all looking forward to her arrival and engagement in the coming weeks. On the far right of this slide is Dr. Selwyn Rogers. He's currently chair of surgery at Temple University. Selwyn graduated, actually his undergraduate medical degrees from Harvard. He did his surgical training at Vanderbilt and is very interested in health disparities. He has a master's in public health also. He will be joining us on December 1st as our new Chief Medical Officer. So we're very pleased that Dr. Rogers is coming aboard. Again, brings a wealth of experiences that we think will be well applied here, has great relationship skills also, like the other two, and so we're very excited that he will be joining us in the very near future. And of course, I know that I've talked about Dr. Garcia Blanco as our chair of biochemistry and molecular biology. Mariano, are you here today? Okay, and Dr. La Posada, who's the chair of pathology, who started back in the summertime. Both have been very much welcomed to the campus. I think they're making great things happen through their interactions as they learn more about UTMB and look at the marvelous array of opportunities that are before the people in their departments and through the connections that their departments have with others here. Like Dr. Townsend, Dr. Walker's not going away. I saw him come in. There he is. So he continues to play a critical role in guiding research, a major leadership role, not only in his area of interest, which is infectious disease. We all know of his many accomplishments in terms of bringing grant funding, furthering the infectious disease effort, not only at UTMB, but across the entire nation. He also, I'm not sure why he's doing this, but he is chair-elect of the Faculty Senate, so he'll have an opportunity to play a big leadership role with the faculty. So Dr. Walker, thank you again, like Dr. Townsend, for all that you've done and continue to do. These are our 6 recipients of the Regents Outstanding Teaching Awards. Now, these are very prestigious awards, the highest teaching awards awarded by the UT system. They come with a beautiful medal. You see a depiction of that on the slide. And also a $25,000 cash award, which can go to the individual faculty member. The faculty member can make an election, or it can go to her or his program or programs of choice. That's up to the faculty member. Of course, UTMB is known for the great expertise that we have in teaching. We've long been recognized for that expertise. All 4 of our schools have educators who are recognized nationally and in some cases internationally for their educational efforts and expertise. It's really nice to see these 6 recognized with others from previous years. This is a peer review process, so identified designated master teachers from the UT system review submissions that come from these applicants or nominees. At UTMB, we use our own Academy of Master Teachers working in concert with the Council of Deans to identify our nominees. The nominees submit a teaching portfolio, evidence that the curriculum, the approaches that they use are innovative, and those innovations have resulted in improved educational outcomes. So it really is a high honor based on outcomes. It's peer-reviewed, a fantastic recognition of the marvelous expertise, not only in these 6 and the others, but across UTMB. So please join me in congratulating, and a number of them couldn't be here today, but these 6 for this recognition. And we've talked before about Angleton Danbury and how we came to this opportunity, essentially through the work on the Texas Medicaid 1115 waiver. As we talked more with the medical staff and the administrative leaders and the staff members there, it became clear that we have so much in common in terms of mission goals and effort to improve health in the communities that we serve. It made a lot of sense, seemed to be a win-win for us to combine forces. That helps out Angleton Danbury and their operational capability. It helps us out in terms of our ability to extend our efforts, particularly with education and perhaps some of the population health research we want to do. So we're very excited that as of August 16th, Angleton Danbury joined the UTMB Health family as one of the organizations where we work to provide great health care, better access to good health through the efforts of the staff and the medical staff and leaders there. Now, the story I wanted to tell, and of course there's this marvelous picture of the nurses in their UTMB black uniforms here. These are pictures from the auxiliary. This was taken at the event that we had there a couple of weeks ago to recognize the formal unveiling of our new logo there, our new signage on the Angleton Danbury campus. This is the auxiliary, the volunteer auxiliary that serves Angleton Danbury. Now, a lot of places have volunteer auxiliaries. We'd actually like to restart the effort that once existed here. It's an important way for a health organization, healthcare organization, to engage with the communities that it serves, get people engaged to become ambassadors and also important sources of feedback relative to the work that's underway. The great thing about this group, though, is they actually founded this hospital. A number of years ago, almost 50 years ago, the state of Texas made it possible to form tax-supported hospital districts. And so this group of community volunteers, mostly women, petitioned the legislature, put together the effort, went to Austin on numerous occasions, and testified as to the need and the opportunity to create this hospital district and then subsequently the medical center. And they were successful. They made it happen, and they've remained heavily engaged in the operations and the mission work since that time. This group actually has 3 of the founding members from 45 years ago who are still active. So that shows you the level of dedication that's present in this group, and it's reflective of the effort in this community to work together to extend access to great health care. So again, hopefully that resonates with you, it resonates with all of us. It shows some of the similarities in terms of the dedication and commitment to do positive things with related to health and healthcare in a community. So again, welcome to all of our folks in Angleton, Danbury. It's so great to have you aboard, and we look forward to doing great things with you as we move together into the future. All right, I wanted to talk a little bit about planning. And some of you know, perhaps some of you might consider yourself victims of my effort to move around the institution and talk to groups about plans and planning. And Dr. Jacobs and Ms. Sollenberger are doing something similar. Ms. Sadro will join that effort when she arrives. We think it's very important to have detailed plans that guide us relative to current and future efforts. We continue to work to enhance our planning efforts. All of us know that the overall amount of resources that are available to us today to do our mission work are relatively less in number than they were even a few years ago. And we think that trend will continue, which puts us into a situation where we have to make wise choices about what we do. We have to execute our public responsibility to generate a return on investment, not necessarily financial, but a return in terms of good work that furthers our mission efforts to produce highly qualified health professionals that will care for all of us and everybody else in the future, to do impactful research, whether it be at the basic science level, at the translational level, at the clinical research level, that can have or will have some application in improving our ability to diagnose, treat, and prevent disease. The overall effort to improve health and health care, not just by delivering cutting-edge health care, but being involved in the process of determining what comes next, being a critical part of defining the future of good health and good health care for Texas and for the rest of the nation. We need to be able to demonstrate to everybody here, certainly, we all want to know how we personally contribute to the mission work. We'd like to see the results of our efforts able to be translated into success for the institution at some level. But we all know it's incredibly important and increasingly important to be able to demonstrate to regents, legislators, members of the communities that we serve, donors, many other stakeholders, that we are responsible, that we are able to prioritize, we are able to identify priorities among the things that we're supposed to do. We're executing our public responsibility and in doing it in a very responsible and effective way. Therefore, the need for good plans, and plans that encompass pretty much everything that we do. And we've been continue to work at having an institutional level plan that's a roll-up of what we want to see happen in the academic enterprise, in the healthcare enterprise, in the institutional support areas, and then have those actually cascade or be translated down, and also from the work units up. So everything meets and flows together, reflecting the work that everybody does in support of executing that public responsibility. We actually have, and I described this, and some of you have heard me talk about this, 3 levels of plans. The first is the one that we're all familiar with. We have budget and operational plans that we update every year. And those describe in detail how we translate the resources that are available to us into a work effort that generates those returns. And then we have the strategic plan, if you will, the road ahead. That's the document that describes the institutional level plan. Supporting that are the plans from the academic enterprise, the health system, the institutional support areas, and those are supported by the plans of the major work units that comprise each of those components of UTMB. So we try to describe these plans, make them pertinent, and help everybody understand how they work together. Now, the third level of plan is a little less discrete. It's really at about the 10-year level, a horizon. And it consists more of what we believe are current trends in our mission and institutional support areas. So what's going to happen with funding? Where might funding come from at the 5 to 10 year to beyond horizon? How might funding for research look? What could happen to state level funding? What are the demands that we see growing, changing for institutional support over the course of time? You think about that horizon, our plans can't be so precise, but they're important. Think about building buildings. When did we start planning for the Jenny Seeley Hospital? Actually, a long time ago. We started working hard again on the plan in 2009. It's going to have patients in 2016. So 7+ years. So you can see we're pretty close to that 10-year horizon. So we need to be able to look out there at some distance and at least understand trends and be willing to make what we think are safe investments relative to the direction that things seem to be going. Doesn't mean we get it right all the time, but what we want to do is position ourselves so that we don't have to make hard changes, hard turns in our plans or big changes in our plans to be successful. I want to talk a little bit more about Road Ahead, though, because that's the document more and more that we refer to, and it's the one that we publicize. It's the one that people outside the institution typically see. It's the one we post on the website. It's the one that all of our scorecards relate to. We've heard a lot from all of you, and I really appreciate the feedback about as our process has improved and we become more precise, actually not only the process but the plans become overwhelming. We have too many areas of interest, too many priorities, too many things that we want to do. No surprise for an organization like this one. Most people come here to work because we want to be involved in making a difference in health and health care in some way, either supporting those activities or being directly engaged in education, research, and patient care. We all have big aspirations. We all want to take on, typically are willing to take on more than we can actually accomplish. It's just the way we're wired, and it allows us to be successful on many fronts. But we can also let that sort of approach and personal set of desires overwhelm us. We can allow it to overcommit us. And so we want to be cautious about that. So as we go forward, we want to try to be a little bit more precise with our plans, limit them. We don't want to back away from our overall goals, but we want to try to do a better job of prioritizing our efforts and describing really what are the most important things that we need to accomplish, particularly over the course of the next 3 or so years. So we're working on the next iteration of the Road Ahead. You can expect to see it delivered from us sometime in October, late October to early November. And I wanted to just talk about the organization of it today. So remember that we've had these things, or hopefully you remember, we've had these things that I call pillars. which are basically the organizational categories of the plan. And we had, a lot of those. We had people, we had quality, then we had the three mission areas, healthcare, research, and education. And then we had a financial success portion. We had a community involvement portion. And so, again, just a lot of things to look at. And those were just the major categories. Beyond that, we had numerous strategies and even more tactics and even more metrics. So again, when you looked at it as a roll-up, just overwhelming, hard to get a grasp on what does this really mean and how does it help us set priorities. So one of the first steps in thinking about how we make this a little more compact, make it a little easier to understand, reduce redundancy, is to reduce that number of pillars or categories. So the next version of the plan actually does that. This is the way we've been depicting it. People still number one. If we don't have great people, we can't support great people, we can't support people in a way that allows them to feel like they're contributing and they're growing and advancing, then we can't be successful. Value, what's value? A number of you I know have been to business school or have business degrees, or because of the work you do, you talk about the value equation. What's the value equation? Well, commonly the value equation is described as quality over cost or outcome over cost. So remember, we had a category that was focused just on quality. Thinking about our public responsibility, we think the better descriptor is value, because we need to effectively and efficiently execute our public responsibility. And we think a lot of the things that we're doing in the mission areas and support areas actually pertain to creating value, or using this value equation to determine how we go about executing our public responsibility. So this is a change that we think better describes our efforts as well as our responsibility. Another change, remember we had an area called strategic management and growth, but we sort of kept that separate. It was focused more on growth than anything else. We decided, again, if you think about mission areas and support areas, everything we're doing should be strategically managed, and we should be growing, but only in pursuit of prioritized, identified, great opportunities that further advance the mission work of the institution. So we'd like to take a lot of the stuff that was separately described, prioritize it somewhat differently, limit our focus, have fewer strategies, tactics, and goals, and include them under this strategic management and growth section, whether it's education, whether it's research, whether it's patient care, whether it's an effort to support one or more of those mission areas. It's very important that we plan to do that in a strategic way that not only satisfies current needs, but allow us to continue to work to do those things in a way that benefits the institution over the course of time. And finally, of course, very important to know what the sources of resources are and how we continually work to make sure that enough resources are available to support all the great work that's occurring here and that we choose to do over the course of time. Clearly, we can't do more than we have resources to support. And if what we do doesn't help us generate access to resources, then can we really afford to do it? In some cases, yes, and we need to, but not in all cases. So again, the plan hopefully is a little simpler now in terms of the way it's organized. And as we roll this out, hopefully you'll also see it has fewer priorities associated with it, fewer things we've identified as really current and things that we have to do. Doesn't mean that we won't do other things. Things always come up. We all face that every day in the individual jobs that we have. But again, an effort to say what's really important, what are the things we really need to do over the next several years to position UTMB in the intermediate and long term for great success. So again, I just wanted to talk about that, introduce that concept today, talk about the effort to make this a little easier to understand, to make it less comprehensive, more focused, and maybe a little easier to relate to all of the things that are happening here and the important things that we want to have happen over the next several years. All right, so elements of this, people, what do we really need to do? And from my perspective, it's win the war for talent. How many of you believe there's a war for talent? And almost everybody's raising their hands or shaking their head. What's happening with health care in this country? Well, you all could give me 16 different answers. That's probably not a good question to ask. But essentially, the demand is growing, right? Population is aging. There are new diagnoses, new understanding, and many opportunities to improve health. There's no shortage of need for people who do what we all do. And the demand for healthcare professionals, whether you're providers or support providers or support the effort, is projected to continue to grow markedly in this country for a number of years. Now, another important thing to know, and Dr. McKinley keeps reminding me of this, and this is an approximate number, about 40% of the people who work at UTMB today are eligible for retirement in the next 5 years. How do we replace 40% of our workforce? It's a war for talent. So hopefully not everybody's going to retire when they can. We'll still view this as a great place to work for a long time, but clearly we need to be competitive. UTMB needs to continue to be not just a great place to work, but one of the greatest places to work. We need to be attractive to people who are looking at us from the outside. We're pretty good today. I mentioned in the past we get 700 job applications a day. But we need for that to continue, and we need to be able to respond to those applications in a more effective and efficient way. We all know that we need to do a much better job of supporting the people that we have. We need to allow people to seek to improve and enhance their skills, sometimes change job skills as the demand here changes over the course of time. And we've approached this in the past like a lot of organizations, and I'm not saying this is anybody's fault. It's just been something we've allowed to have happen. And that is, we said, it's everybody's personal responsibility to do their own development, to be in charge of that. And we'll provide some opportunities out there, but we really haven't provided an organized approach for people to pursue those opportunities, either for personal or professional development. And unless we do that, we cannot be one of the greatest places to work. So we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But we're going to have to change that. It's going to be a big effort, and it's going to require resources. But I'm arguing that unless we're willing to invest on that front, we're going to pay a lot more in the intermediate and long term because we're going to lose the war for talent. So much of the content of our people plans that you'll see articulated are aimed at attracting and keeping great people, continuing to support them, groom them, allow them to develop and advance in ways that are appropriate to them, and keep them here at UTMB because we have a huge need for people in the future. So again, we'll release the details of this in the coming weeks, but I just wanted you to be aware of that particular approach. Value, I talked about this, quality or outcomes over cost. We need to continually look at how we do things, how we generate value. That's important to us on a number of fronts. The health system's concerned about this. There are a number of external criteria in the governmental payer systems and the private payer systems related to patient satisfaction, quality of outcomes, cost effectiveness. So certainly we're engaged in thinking about value on that front. The health system has it as a stated goal coming out in this plan for us all to work together to make sure we're top quartile performance in almost every category of healthcare delivery. That's an appropriate goal for a place like UTMB. Same thing in the academic enterprise. How can we assist our students? We deliver great educational outcomes today, but everybody's learning from what we're doing. They're all upping their game too. And we know it's very expensive to educate health professionals today. We're involved in a number of efforts to reduce that cost, perhaps reduce the duration of training, turn people out faster with more of a focus on competency-based assessment than a testing-based assessment as a curriculum as we've used in the past. So our deans, our educational leaders, very much thinking about value, thinking about the kids that are graduating from here with $150,000+ in debt, and what a anchor around their neck that is for them as they try to start their careers and advance their private lives. What can we do to reduce that debt load? So a number of things for us to consider on the educational front. Similarly, on the research front, how do we better use the infrastructure? How do we fine-tune our infrastructure to better support our faculty and make sure they're as competitive as they can be as they put forward requests for grant funding or philanthropic support and the like? So a lot of work relative to value, quality over cost, outcomes over cost, big part of our plans. Strategic management and growth, again, what does it take to get us positioned appropriately so we can attract and support students? How many patients do we need to see? It's important not only from a funding perspective, but from an educational opportunity perspective. How much primary care exposure do we need? How much specialty care exposure do we need? What sorts of affiliations do we need to guarantee that our students have the most enriched educational context for learning? What about research? How do we make sure that we can attract those dollars? How do we align clinical excellence with research excellence, which is what's being recommended by everybody who's looking at our academic health center function and thinking about the future and how we position ourselves well? What about the health system itself? How is it organized? How does it remain competitive? What partnerships or other affiliations with employers, payers, other providers are necessary? So again, how do we create that operating environment in all of our mission areas and support areas so that we can, to the extent we can, guarantee the institution's success as we go forward? We're trying to prioritize those efforts, think about what's most important, what are the steps we need to take today to guarantee that longer-term success. So hopefully you'll see those sorts of goals and efforts reflected in that set of our plans. And finally, resources, as I mentioned earlier, we can't be successful unless we have them. And so how do we secure what we need? How do we make plans based on what we see happening? How do we make sure that we're not caught flat-footed and we don't have to radically change our course because the nature of resources or their availability suddenly changes? How do we communicate effectively with members of the legislature, members of the executive branch, foundations who support us or can offer philanthropic support, major donors, alumni who are engaged in telling our story and open doors for us to get resources? So all of these things need to be considered. We need to have plans for those. We need to understand what they are, and we need to be successful in executing those plans. So again, we have the resources we need in the future. So a lot in the plans. Again, trying to do a better job of thinking what are the priorities today, what are the things we absolutely have to do to generate success, and how do those apply across the institution? What's each individual's role or each work group's role in generating that success, and be able to describe that so everybody understands how they're helping us be successful. And to that end, and we've talked about this in the past, we've developed this concept called My Road Ahead. So we have the Road Ahead, which is the 3 to 5 year strategic plan. My Road Ahead is an effort to take to the work unit level initially, ultimately to the individual employee level, a description of work unit and individual priorities and contributions. 5 or 6 for most of us, things that we need to do, we need to be a part of in helping our work unit be successful, things we need to accomplish on our own or with our colleagues that improve UTMB's overall chances for success. So that's on the one side, the left side of the document, if you will, goals and priorities at the work unit and individual level. On the other side, what does it take for the people in my work group to stay current, to have the appropriate skills? What certifications are available to me or should be pursued to allow our unit to be successful? What do I need to do? What does a colleague need to do? Now, this will be more individualized. You know, we've got work units that are composed of people who are brand new to the organization, who are working in teams with people who have been here for 30-plus years. So those development plans are going to be a little bit different, but that's okay. They work towards that goal of enabling a work unit and a component of the institution to be successful over the course of time. Now, this is something that doesn't happen overnight. It's a relatively simple concept, and actually, a lot of this work's already been done, particularly in terms of describing work unit goals and priorities. Those are rolled up into the institution's plans. We've not done as good of a job in taking those to the individual level, helping individuals understand how they contribute to UTMB's success. And that's going to take some time, some efforts at communication and the like. But the big need and the big opportunity here is on the development side. What are the personal and professional development opportunities for each work unit? And it's not enough, as I mentioned earlier, just to identify those. We have to create ways for our people to access them. One of the challenges for managers, particularly in small work units, is providing time, not just resources, but time for people to pursue development opportunities, because there's a loss of productivity. And sometimes that's critical. So we as an institution need to solve that problem, understand, create ways to address that loss of productivity so we can keep the work moving along, but we allow that critical development of individuals in work units to occur. Now, our target groups that we've identified who are going to try to push this soup to nuts in the next fiscal year, and I see Mr. Leach shaking his head over here. One is information technology. They already do an amazing job of this. Now, I think Mr. Leach would be the first to tell me it's not perfect, but they've done some really nice work to identify career advancement opportunities, development opportunities. They think about how they get their people to pursue those. They think about the certifications that are helpful in furthering the work of a work unit. They think about how to manage that productivity loss. So they, and also the Business Operations and Facilities Group, which has something similar in place, are going to try to take this concept and advance it, and we'll all learn from that over the course of the next year. Now, the health system is also committed to this. Probably because it's significantly larger and more diverse, they won't be as far along, but we'll learn a lot from that effort also. I think it's probably going to take us 3 to 5 years to really get comfortable with this, to think about how it applies across UTMB, to really start to do a better job of making this work for UTMB, but we are committed to do it. We think it's very important. This concept of My Road Ahead, no matter what you call it, the idea of having individual work plans and individual development plans is very, very, very important for us, so we're going to pursue it. All right, now the other thing we've talked about a lot is how do we improve communications? There's so much content out there, but the bottom line is, who has time to access it? Websites, emails that come out. My wife's sitting over here and she tells me she doesn't even read the emails I send out. So, I mean, you know, and she's a busy clinician, so I understand. And it's a real challenge, and we've done more work, and certainly the last couple of employee surveys have pointed this out. The most trusted source of information for all of us is the person we work with, particularly our manager or supervisor. And they're the ones who regularly meet with us and talk to us about what's going on. What our managers and supervisors are telling us in many cases is they don't have the time. More importantly, they don't see the content coming to them in an organized way that makes it easy to translate, to turn it into communications that can be easily delivered to employees in the finite amount of time that they have to do that. So understanding that, we're going to try to package a lot of content. We're going to do some formatting and create different sorts of systems for managers to use. We want to roll this out in January. This is akin in some ways to what you've heard some of the other industries use, and I think the Ritz-Carlton started this with hotels a number of years ago, called daily huddles. Now, we're not talking about daily huddles for most of our folks, but there's a systematic approach where there's information delivered about what's happening across the Ritz-Carlton chain. There's important information that's delivered to the work group about what's happening with them. There's important information delivered about things that are important to employees, like signing up for the annual health plan or getting a flu shot or those sorts of things. There is an opportunity for employees to ask questions of managers about any of those things. And then there's an element of recognition. And it might be professional recognition if somebody's gotten a new grant or they've gotten a new certification or they've completed a development opportunity. It may also be personal recognition for something that they do outside of UTMB, whether they've had a new grandchild or they've been involved with another organization and doing something that has a positive impact in the community in which they live. So we're working on the formats now. There's not going to be just one. We understand that one size doesn't fit all. We're actually going to ask our managers to do about a half day of training and working with us between now and January, and we'll schedule a number of those sessions to more fully develop this idea and then again to begin to test it in January. So we hope that will help a lot in terms of creating a better way to transmit critical information and also hopefully serve as a better vehicle for two-way communication, getting information back from managers about critical communication needs from employee groups around the institution. So I'm excited about it. I know it's a big challenge again, but I think this is a good approach. It's worked in other large organizations, and we're anxious to get it rolling after the first of the calendar year. We've had a very successful fiscal year 14. If you look at the road ahead and its scorecard for fiscal year 14, we typically code our progress in what we call a stoplight report format. Red for things that aren't working at all, yellow for things that need attention, that we're not making as much progress as we want, or perhaps we need to make some changes in our approach to be successful, and green for things that are going as we wanted, or we're accomplishing our goals. And if you look at the FY14 scorecard, it's mostly green. There's a little red, there's a little yellow. That's okay. We expect that. If that's not the case, then we probably haven't committed to do as much as we should do. But by and large, we were incredibly successful in 14 and financially successful too. We're still working on the final financial close, but we're going to close with about a $10 to $15 million positive margin. That's, I think, the 5th year in a row that we will have done that. So we're managing very well. And so that's great news. Just some pictures up here, indicative success. Dr. Watson, you recognize your students here at commencement, School of Nursing students. This is Dr. LeDuc with Senator Cornyn when he was here a few weeks ago. This is Corey Intaforo in the suit here, one of our researchers, who's demonstrating the mobile suit in the BSL-4 labs that's available for our researchers, used and explain how those systems work. This is one of the beams signed by UTMB employees who participated in the Family Fund effort to support the Jenny Seeley Hospital. Most of you know that those have been placed at the very top of those exterior stairwells. They can be seen as you go up to the top of the stairs, so you can actually maybe even see your own signature if you signed it in a very recognizable way, forever serving as a tribute to everybody that worked so hard who personally contributed to getting the Jenny Seeley up and going. This is Miss Melba Bacon. She is the chair of the Angleton Danbury Board of Trustees. You all recognize Miss Sollenberger. This is the unveiling of the signage that we're using on that campus there at a celebration a few weeks ago. I talked about Angleton Danbury earlier. This is Matthew Igbeneby, who is a first-year student getting his white coat from his sister Sherry, who's a third-year student at the recent white coat ceremony. It's always fun to see the new students come in. And, just think about what happens here with these young people. They come in, think about the state that they're in when they get here. And think about their ability to function as health professionals when they leave. What an incredible change over a short period of time. And with the work of our great faculty, positioning them for great success during the entire course of their careers. And finally, this is Dr. Joaquin Cordiella from anesthesia, and I think you all recognize Dr. Joan Nichols. We all know about her project, their project to grow human lung tissue on the skeleton of an existing lung, and what a tremendous breakthrough that's been. So again, this doesn't by any means represent all of the marvelous accomplishments here, but great things we can all celebrate and very indicative of the great work that's occurring. So I think we need to congratulate ourselves on work well done. We have really smart, committed people here who are helping us be successful, and there's no reason that should change as we go forward. And on that front, some of you remember that we have a program that we run here for classified staff. And in a year in which we achieve most of our goals and we're financially successful, we have an opportunity for the classified staff to participate in the benefits. So I'll be announcing today, there'll be an email coming out about 1:30 this afternoon or sometime this afternoon that talks about the team award. Our eligible classified staff will be paid $500 as part of that recognition of incredible work done. So please join me in expressing appreciation to colleagues, whether they be classified staff, faculty, at any level for a job well done, and we all can share in the rewards, and that includes our folks in CMC. These are non-appropriated state dollars, so we have the freedom to also recognize our wonderful folks who do such an incredible job in delivering care in the correctional managed care system. So I'm very pleased to make that announcement. It's great to be able to celebrate great success. Finally, I think we can continue to have great years. It's not that we don't have challenges, we do, but as I've said before, ours are like everybody else's who's in the same businesses that we are. Academic health centers are greatly challenged, but we have very smart people here. We have the dedication and commitment. We have the ability to secure the resources that we need to be successful, and I know we can continue to do that. We certainly have done it in the past. Thank you for all that all of you do to help make us successful. Let's all keep working together to make that happen as we go forward. Thank you very much. Okay, we have a few minutes for questions. I know that the Employee Advisory Council had some that came in, so I'm happy to take those, but let's see if there are others. Yes?
Thank you for taking my question. I understand we have reapplied for activation of liver transplant program. This is our third go-around to reactivate liver transplant. I have a two-part question. What are we going to do differently than we have done twice in the past? And how are we going to attract paying patients when we have a good liver transplant program up the road and excellent one even in Dallas?
A really great question. Thank you very much. We all learn from things that don't go as well as we want. And as we look back and think about the organizational effort to raise the program in its last iteration, there are some things that we should have done differently. We learned that over the course of time. So those are being taken into account. We're thinking about the changes that have occurred in terms of organ procurement, which actually put UTMB in a more difficult position relative to our ability to procure organs for our potential recipients. And so affiliation, we think, is a better strategy. We think it's important to have a transplant program that aligns well with some of the important research that's going on here. We need a clinical expression and alignment to be successful with that research. So your point is well taken. We need to learn from things we didn't do so well, take those things into account, and incorporate those into our plans for the future. And so I think we're doing that with a lot of engagement of our faculty and people in the health system, working to create the appropriate affiliations that can better enable success in the future. Thank you. Anybody else in this audience? Okay. Good afternoon.
My name is Laura Rosales, and I'm a member of Employee Advisory Council, and I represent the academic enterprise. One of the questions we have is, are we planning on having cutting-edge technology in the new hospital similar to the new UT Southwestern Clements University Hospital?
Why would we want to do anything similar to Southwestern? You know, all of us who are building new hospitals, particularly in academic health science centers, are thinking not only about current needs, but about future needs, and about technology and how technology can better enable us to be able to provide great care to our patients. And so we've looked at the evidence-based principles of design. I think there are 12 essential principles that guide design of new healthcare facilities, and particularly inpatient facilities, and incorporated all of those elements into the design for the new Jenny Seeley. And not only have we done what Southwestern has done in terms of accommodating current technology, but we've built a lot of capability to accommodate future changes in future technology also. So I think we're very well positioned. I don't think there's going to be any facility in the country that's going to be a better site for not only delivery of patient care, but for the teaching that will do, the enabling of technology to further the learning opportunity for our students and residents. So I think we're all excited for this hospital to open, and I think it's going to be a wonderful advance in our ability not only to care for patients, but educate students and residents. Mr. Leach, do you want to say anything about technological capabilities? You certainly have been a leader in making sure we're in the right place.
Sure. You know, as Dr. Callender indicated, I mean, we know that the technology advances. We may not even know what some of those are going to be. So in many ways, we have to prepare for what we don't know. And that means putting as much into the building before it actually gets constructed so that we're ready for those new advances. But where we can find out information, like, for example, our core clinical information systems, for example, we're working closely with the vendor to understand screen sizes, connectivity, the types of technology that would be used in the patient rooms, and really making sure that either one, we have that technology ready day one when we open the hospital, or that it's in the plan over the next few years after we open the hospital. So again, I think it's kind of hard, as always, to guess the future. But we have a lot of, I think, good vendor assistance, as well as a lot of knowledge at UTMB about what the future is going to look like. So I think we're well prepared.
Okay. Thank you, Todd. Thank you for the question. Do you guys have other ones?
Yes. Hi, I'm Suzanne Johnston, also from the Employee Advisory Council, and I also represent the academic enterprise. One of the questions we received is, can we get back in the business of selling tickets on campus at a discounted rate for sports events, themes, parks, etc.?
Yeah, that's a nice service. From what I understand, and had an opportunity to look at this one in advance, and Dr. McKinley may want to help me if I need help, is basically, rather than just do that at a site on campus, we have the opportunity to make that service available online, so it's accessible from anywhere at any time. So I understand that discount service, if you will, across a broad array of regional opportunities will again be available to our employees. Don't know the exact time frame, but it will be through an online mechanism. I guess I need some help. Thank you, Dr. McKinley.
Oh, you're welcome. Right, so we're going to partner with an organization called Benny Place that provides lots of these types of things. And some of them are going to be voluntary new benefits that we currently don't have, like you'll be able to buy home insurance and car insurance at group discounted rates, pet insurance, things like that. Even a car, you'll be able to buy cars and electronics, a lot of neat stuff. We'll incorporate all the current discount with ID program that we have so that everything that's local will be right online for the folks that live around here, but we'll be able to give access to all of our employees for a change. So it's going to be not, in the next 2 or 3 months, we're working out the kinks. So, all right.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. McKinley. Other things, Laura or Suzanne?
We have another question.
Okay.
Okay. Another question we received is, thank you for your emphasis on culture of trust and professionalism. There are still some areas lacking because of management decisions. Many of us spend money to get advanced degrees hoping we will get a career advancement opportunity. But in nursing, it's all about who knows who rather than the degrees and certifications. It's frustrating and people are leaving because of that. We are losing employees who are excellent, but there is no career advancement for a regular person unless you know the right person.
Well, certainly hear the frustration in that comment and appreciate it very much. It goes back, I think, to a large extent to what I pointed out earlier, which is we need to be more transparent, if you will, about what advancement opportunities look like, what development opportunities look like, broadly engage everybody in those, and also be able to better describe how they pertain to opportunities for advancement into a defined leadership or management role. Now, the other thing I'd argue is you don't always need to be in one of those identified roles to be a leader. We have a number of thought leaders and action leaders who aren't in a management role. But, you know, each to our own. Different things are appealing to different members or numbers of us. I think Dr. Marshall would be disappointed to hear that that is the perception of that person. Perhaps one of the things we can do is, as we think about those development opportunities and advancement, and there's a career ladder in nursing, we can make it clear about how we make decisions, and when we do make them, the basis for those, and perhaps give better feedback to those who were engaged in the process but not successful in moving into the position, what they could do to better their chances. David, you're sitting right here. I'm sorry. Did you want to make an additional comment?
I don't think I have anything to add to what you just said, Dr. Keller.
Okay, thank you. Well, you guys are doing great work. I know, sometimes we disappoint people because of the decisions we make, and I think in those circumstances, the general rule of thumb, we should always try to explain the why of what we do apply. So I think that's really great feedback, and all of us who are in some sort of designated management role should think about that, and the people who are engaged in making themselves eligible, desiring to be in a different sort of role, understand how they fared and why they fared and what the basis for the decision was. So it's great feedback. Thank you. Suzanne, do you have another one?
Yes, we do. Why is education of higher level management not required at this time? Experience is not enough most times to keep up with the demands and true understanding of the electronic health record system in our transition to such. It puts us at great risk when unskilled managers, totally inexperienced in the medical field, make decisions regarding a patient's chart that directly affect patient care. They don't know the difference between a colonoscopy and a colposcopy, and the decisions they make are based on such ignorance.
Boy, a lot of frustration in that comment. A lot of places to go with that one. I see Todd ducking down over there. Is Dr. Clark here, by the way? Is Carlos here today? Okay, well, this whole issue of electronic health records is huge. I was just reading the American Medical Association provided a major statement this week back to the Obama administration, but to the public as a whole, talking about the impression that many physicians, most, in fact, I think, including myself, that electronic health records in their current iteration are doing more to interfere with good patient care than enhance it. Now, on my part, that's not a criticism of what we're doing here. Epic is one of the best systems that's available, but it's frustrating to use. It takes a lot of time. The documentation requires a great deal of clerical effort, and it's difficult to learn the ways that you can make that effort go more quickly. And so it's frustrating. And I've certainly indicated this frustration that I have with the process and where we are to Mr. Leach and Dr. Clark, and ask them to do everything that we can do to what we call optimize Epic and its use by our physicians and providers. There are a number of things built into the system, capabilities that can be accessed, but it takes some education, some effort, some practice to use those effectively and reduce the overall amount of time that's involved in recording. That said, I think Todd agrees with me. You know, when the architecture for what was been called a CBPR, the computer-based patient record, physician-directed order entry, all these things were being considered 20, 30 years ago. The general concept was, well, you know, we'll make this really easy, and we'll take all of those middle steps out. We'll just make it easy for the doctor or the provider to push a couple of buttons and direct everything that happens with the patient. It'll all be drop-down menus. We'll make a couple of selections. It'll be very effective and efficient, and it'll all work better, and patients will be better cared for. Well, it hasn't translated that way because of the complexity of the process. And so now it is too much of a clerical effort that's embedded in the architecture, not only in Epic, but in every other electronic health record that's out there. And it's one of the leading causes for physician burnout and frustration today. And this has been described in all sorts of professional journals, as well as in much lay literature, including a nice editorial in the Wall Street Journal about 3 Saturdays ago. So it's a national issue. From my perspective, we're doing everything we can. It's actually not Mr. Leach or other administrators or me that are making these decisions. Some of these are driven, a lot of them are driven by the architecture. Much of the requirement to do these things is driven by the Obama administration's meaningful use requirements, which require a high utilization of electronic health record for reimbursement. And what the AMA actually said was, take that away. You're going to lose all your doctors. They're going to drop out of the Medicare program. It's not worth our time. So it is an area of national concern and frustration. Dr. Clark's doing everything he can. He's involved with physician users to make decisions about what we change and how we do that. Dr. McCollum is heavily engaged in working with physicians, thinking about how we can use even scribes, the Dragon dictation systems, other dictation systems, to try to reduce the clerical effort that's necessary to document. So bottom line is, understand the frustration very well. We're going to do all we can as an institution, and I encourage all of us to stay engaged on a national level to force this architecture and approach to change and not to penalize providers and get in the way of their ability to care for patients. Todd, you want to say anything else?
Just one quick comment. I think Dr. Callender said it very well. What you will see from us this year is very visible effort on the front lines trying to optimize and make as efficient as possible the use of the electronic medical record. The other thing I thought I would share is I just was at Epic's user group meeting this week. A number of our staff, actually, that's where Dr. Clark is today as well. And I was very impressed with the fact that Epic is 100% focused. All their enhancements were on making the physician experience, the provider experience very efficient within the information system. I think they've heard that message loud and clear. The AMA report referenced, I think, on average 48 minutes of extra time. And so if that's the average, some people are spending 2 and 3 hours more in their day just to do the same work they used to do without the system. So look forward to some good things in 2015. We're really going to make some visible effort to optimize the system for your use.
Good. Thank you very much, Todd. Okay, it's 1 o'clock, so thank you all for coming today. If any of you have questions, come on down and I'll be happy to answer those. Thank you very much.